everyone, welcome to a special behind the scenes video. For the past couple weeks, I've been asking you what your questions are so that we can finally respond to each of them in a special Q&A video, and this is that video. Welcome all. If you're new to the channel, as always, I gotta let you know what this channel is all about. Here on Wind Waker Unflooded, we have been reimagining the land of Hyrule in the art style of the Wind Waker. Of course, you know, if you've played Wind Waker, you know that all the islands of the Great Sea are the mountaintops of Hyrule, but we never get to fully explore that version of Hyrule. And so this 3D modeling project on this YouTube channel is all about bringing that world that we've never gotten to see before to life. This is Wind Waker Unflooded. Here I am joined by my friend Alexander Lathem, if he may introduce himself.
Yeah, my name's Alexander Lathem. I've been probably the biggest Joe fan out there, maybe even the first Joe fan. I don't want to make that claim, but really happy to be taking part in this Q&A and just kind of helping Joe out here, and kind of just getting into the history of this project and just the history of Joe's career, I guess. I'm
excited. Yeah, I've read a couple of the questions already, and I'm excited to really get into the nitty-gritty here. There's gonna be some very special lore that you learn in this video. I'm sure. I'm already very excited to have this discussion with you.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one, folks. So our first question is from actually the fellow Zelda tuber, the Bread Pirate. You should subscribe to his channel if you're interested about trivia about the Legend of Zelda series. He's got his recent video that I've checked out. Lookout Landing sucks as a fort.
Great video.
Great video, as well as such others such as Can You Eat Koroks and the actual tallest building or build in Tears of the Kingdom featuring a really long stick. Be sure and check him out. But the Bread Pirate asks one of the most crucial questions, which is, what inspired you to start YouTubing? It seems like you uploaded your first video in 2016, which was years before the Wind Waker project.
Yeah, no, great question. You know, I got into YouTube. I started uploading on my main channel with just short films that I was making. And I think, you know, this is part of why I wanted you to be involved in this Q&A, Alex, because, you know, you were there since the beginning. Alex was in my first short film that I ever made that was posted on that main channel. It was the first YouTube video I think I ever posted.
Yeah.
It's still up today. So I guess I want to ask you, too, because you were involved in that. So I feel like if I can kind of deflect this question to you a little bit, you know, what's your memory of how that started?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were in high school, right? And we, you came up to me, Samuel L. Jackson style, and you were like, I want to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. But really, I don't really remember the exact sequence of events, but I just came along. I've always liked film and just media in general, and so I was really excited. And then you were talking about doing Christmas Carol, and we just kind of went at it. Like you had and I don't know if I'm putting the cart before the horse here, but we had this real avant-garde style of filmmaking where we didn't really have a script. It was like a lot of improv. I mean, you had like story beats and such, right? And you were like, this happens, this scene. But, we did a lot of takes where we just kind of like, going off each other and kind of saying like, oh, maybe we should try this delivery, or, we should mention this line from the Christmas Carol. That's a good line to bring in. And it was a really fun process because I was also there for ADR. It was kind of my first look into the editing process of a film. And so a lot was like, that was an introduction, I think, for me and for you.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, I got into YouTube because I was passionate about filmmaking, and that's definitely still guiding projects that I'm continuing to make, is definitely a passion for storytelling and just wanting to be able to express myself creatively. And I've really been happy about the success of this project, because even though this is a very different kind of creativity than what I'm used to doing short films, this project kind of has nothing to do with filmmaking, but it's still very much creatively empowering. And so it's been really rewarding to see this channel have success, because it's still, even though it's a fan project, I've been very grateful that it's, I still feel like it's, how do I put it? It's like it's my creativity is what it's all about. At the end of the day, Wind Waker Unflooded, even though it is a Zelda fan project, even though it is, taking cues from this game that already exists, it's like it wouldn't exist if I wasn't there making my own creative decisions. And so it's I don't know, I don't want to sound too pretentious, but I guess like I got into YouTube just because I felt like I wanted a creative outlet, and it's been nice that my most successful project is still all about pure creativity at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like going back, like when we didn't have a script for those, for that first film, I don't think it was for a lack of like, I don't want to write a script. I feel like it was more about, can we kind of, be creative here and have room to do our own space. And I think we didn't really do the improv style of film for a while. I think we maybe did. There was Power and Pelf. Any Power and Pelf fans out there, please come, raise your hand. There are dozens of us. But, we, I think just like getting into like the difference between the Wind Waker and your current projects is you're always moving on to new stuff. You're always trying out new stuff. It's like film and music. And one day you're like, I'm going to do an animated series. And the next is like, I'm going to do a musical. And you had been kind of getting into 3D modeling before you were like, I want to take on this really ambitious world building project. And I do think like throughout all your projects, but yeah, especially Wind Waker, it is this very creative endeavor where you have all these source materials, the map, and obviously the Wind Waker and other Zelda games and other people contributing to it. But genuinely, it is just like, it's Joe out here doing Joe's thing in a lot of ways. And I think it's really cool to see.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, and I like what you're saying there, because it's I talk about this in the first video I released on the Wind Waker channel, and I think it's worth repeating here that like the Wind Waker Unflooded as a 3D modeling project was made possible because I was experimenting with 3D animation and 3D modeling and just CGI for visual effects in my short films, and everything that I learned trying to do this sci-fi miniseries I was working on called Star Boys. That was a project that I wanted to do that was all about space exploring and just sci-fi space adventures. And I really wanted to learn CGI and visual effects to be able to pull off that piece. And it was through that project and trying to learn CGI for Star Boys that made Wind Waker Unflooded possible. And so, I mean, there's a direct correlation between my projects for sure. And I think that's why it's worth bringing up and kind of showing you that lineage that directly led to this project being possible.
And, if I may, Joe, speaking of this project being possible, I mean, should we move on to the next Wind Waker Q&A question?
We should. What is the next Wind Waker Q&A question?
This is from Acorn Gnome, a wonderful username, if I may. It's inspiring, actually. But it is, what gave you the genius idea to make this project?
I love this question, and I included this in the priority list because I love the username, and I love that they included genius in the question. But but this project, it felt, as I started working on Wind Waker Unflooded, and I tried to explain what the project was in videos. I always felt like it was hard to explain because it was such a niche fan project. But the more I made videos and the more I got an audience, I realized that everyone who's played Wind Waker also kind of shared this feeling. In the game, you get to see part of Hyrule. You get to explore the small little area. There's a path near Hyrule Castle. And that's all you get to see. But you're told that the whole world you explore is Hyrule. We just never actually get to see it. We don't really get to explore it until later games like Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, which give us a lot more freedom. But that question of, I think so many people that played Wind Waker fell in love with that art style. And there was always a question of what would Hyrule look like in that art style? And that's what your heart wants to see. And there's so many people that I feel like when I was doing this project just got it. And it's something that I feel like is hard to explain. But if you've played Wind Waker, then you totally understand where this project comes from.
No, yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's a really cool idea because I think there's a lot of games, but especially Wind Waker, that give you kind of a tease of a world beyond. And I think what makes Wind Waker so special is that, like, we had seen Hyrule before. And Wind Waker is such a drastic departure from, like, it feels like in a very maybe literal way, we're kind of just scratching the surface of that Hyrule. And at the end of the game, you obviously get to see a bit more of it. And I remember being a little kid and kind of like descending into the ocean. And just, yeah, I think seeing that, it's like, oh, I want to go out and explore more. And it's this weird, it's like this wall that you can't cross that just, you know, makes your imagination go crazy. So this is like a really cool, you know, I mean, not to, you know, hype up the project more, but I think it's really awesome to see, because like you said, I think most Zelda fans who'd play that game wanted to see that. And, you know, we haven't really had a chance to. So this project is really fulfilling those desires in a lot of ways.
No, I totally agree. And like, I definitely want to be careful the language that I use, because as much as I totally agree and I've really appreciated people being excited about the project, I do feel really humble about it. Like, doing this project has made me realize that, like, there are limits to my 3D modeling ability, and there's some things that, like, I do struggle with, and especially as I've collaborated with other 3D modelers who are more talented than I am, it's been really cool just to see their process and to see people in the comments commenting, like, Joe, I think you could be doing this better. And I really welcome that, and I definitely want to kind of voice that, like, you know, this project came from a place of passion. It's something that I do think is cool, but also, like, I do feel very aware of, like, I very much still feel like a beginner at this whole CGI thing. And I think, honestly, I think that's part of why I was able to get into this project. This is a huge project. It's way more ambitious than anything I had any right to try. But also because I was a beginner, I didn't realize that. And I think I'm still, like, in that point where, like, I still don't realize that yet. You know? So I think that's what makes the project possible, is just that I have a little bit of that beginner's ignorance. And I still, I think part of that is just that, like, I'm also okay with, like, I want to go in and polish things, but I'm also okay with, like, that can take time. And I know that I can do a rough version of the world, and that I'm good enough to make that possible. And I think just all of that, that mindset makes the project possible.
Yeah, totally. I remember when you, I guess, first started the project, and you mentioned that this was like a very, like, long form project. It was never going to be a thing you focused on, and that was the only thing you ever did, right? It was like, there will be projects that come out while you do this one, because it is such a huge undertaking. And I don't know if this really gets into if anyone's asked this question yet, but I guess just like, it maybe ties more into that first one, but I remember you've been kind of promoting this project for a while, and you touched on this in the most recent video when you did Elden Bridge, right? Where you would only kind of show off things that looked completed. And as such, that maybe, you know, it looked cool and was really presentable, but it also sort of stretched out the, you know, release windows of a new Wind Waker Unflooded. And I remember you posted on Instagram and TikTok, and you would get like a few likes maybe. But, you know, finally, I think it blew up, which was awesome, which I always had faith it would, because I think this just is such a stellar idea that it's like, why haven't we seen more, you know, iterations of Wind Waker if it was Unflooded, either through, you know, fan art or modeling or what have you?
Yeah. I really like what you point out there. And I forgot, I haven't watched that video just because I pre-recorded it, and so I haven't seen it in a while. But I remember that recording the voiceover for that and asking that question. And I think you're right. I do think part of what has allowed this project to be successful on YouTube is the fact that I've been willing to show off incomplete parts. And I think that was kind of counterintuitive at first. Just the idea that, like, I think what people want to see is the project being worked on. And the more transparent I can be with the modeling process, even if that takes a little humility and going, this isn't quite ready yet, this isn't quite done, I know it looks bad, but it's like that I think that people want to see that. And I know that, like, and I think what it took realizing that was thinking of the videos that I like watching by creative people. I love Adam Savage's videos, and some of the things that I love about those videos are things that I try to do with this channel. Because something I love whenever he does his, like, one-day build videos, sometimes he's just accomplishing part of a project, and he's okay with showing you, oh, I made a mistake, this isn't going to work. And he's also okay with showing you, okay, it doesn't look quite good yet, but let me show you that. Let me show you the process of making something and refining it and showing you an incomplete product, and then you can also see it as it gets worked on and refined. And I think that transparency is something that I really appreciate about his content. And I feel like from watching that, that taught me something about like, no, that's what I want to see in a video. And so I'm just hopeful that other people also want to see that too. And I like to think that that's part of what has allowed the project to be more successful, is once I was willing to say, let's be more transparent and just show you the progress, whether it's ready or not.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. I actually kind of want to shout out another YouTube channel, Monster Garden on YouTube, who has been sort of doing this world building project, kind of imagining an original fantasy world. And I was just watching some videos about how they kind of just completely reworked this character they had and these ideas, and showing their process, and kind of even admitting like, oh, I didn't use this technique, and I don't know why I did, but it obviously, with this new technique, I think it looks a lot better. And I appreciate that like kind of candidness, because, you know, I think there's a way to like highly edit and kind of sanitize these, you know, videos. You could have stuck with those old school, like, here's just a silent overview. And I think it would have been cool, but I think showing your process and showing the work that goes into it gives people kind of a better understanding of just like what it takes to make this thing. I mean, I think just the kind of time lapses are phenomenal at that. And so I think it's a great idea that you've just decided to kind of open up the curtains and say like, you know, here's the whole thing. Like, here's how it's made, you know, that classic, that classic show we all miss dearly.